Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of B&B Hockey Talk. I'm Aaron Bloxel with my co-host, Mr. Matthew Balzer. Today, we're going to go through a few of the latest signings. A couple RFAs have signed with their respective teams, and we're going to catch you up to date with all the news and notes of September the 17th. Matt, how's it going? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, going good. NHL preseason is underway. Was able to watch the Calgary-Boston game. Actually, ended up being a pretty good game for the first game in the preseason.
I'm trying not to buy into all the hype at some of the training camps, but there's definitely a lot of people competing for jobs, and it's great to see hockey back on. So a couple of big RFAs signing with their respective teams. Why don't you catch us up to date with those two signings?
Yeah, so yesterday Winnipeg locked up Josh Morrissey to a 2-year deal worth $6.3 million. Pretty good bridge deal. I think the Morrissey camp was trying to get that long-term deal so they could get the bigger money, but Cheveldayoff was able to hold off to get that 2-year bridge deal. And then today, the Edmonton Oilers signed Darnell Nurse to a 2-year, $6.4 million deal. That Morrissey signing yesterday set that number perfectly for the Oilers to get Nurse under. And with the Oilers only having around like $4 million in cap space, Nurse wasn't going to get that much money, much more money to begin with than that. So two good bridge deals, especially with Winnipeg having to get Trouba and Tyler Myers locked up long term at the end of this season. So that buys them some time before they have to get to Morrissey's long term contract.
Well, and Darnell Nurse, of course, is going to be a big part of that Edmonton blue line with Sekera out for most of the year already. Both, I think, were great signings. Who are the remaining people holding out right now? Like, I know Nylander is not at camp with Toronto. Who are the other names that you can think of that are holding out at camp? Now that Nurse signed, I know he's back at camp. So
yeah. So Shea Theodore continues to be a holdout for Vegas. Apparently, they still aren't close to a new deal, which is huge for Vegas because I think Theodore is their best defenseman on that team. I think it's a big thing. I think Theodore wants a long-term contract and a lot of money, but I don't think Vegas is willing to give him that money just yet. Maybe with these two bridge deals that have just been signed, maybe they can get him for that type of money. Miles Woods with New Jersey is still holding out, which with the way he plays, would being that big power forward with a lot of speed. That could be a huge loss if he continues to hold out. And Nick Ritchie with Anaheim is that last big name that's still out there. I'm surprised Anaheim still hasn't been able to lock him up. He's had just under 30 points the last 2 years. I know he's a bigger presence, so he gets that physical play and stuff, but offensively he hasn't broken out yet. So that still intrigues me why he hasn't signed. And Nylander, that's a situation you got to continue to monitor. Right now, Tyler Ennis is getting a look on that top line with Matthews and Marleau at the moment, but it's going to be tough to see how Toronto, if Nylander continues to want that $8 million a year with Marner and Matthews contracts coming up, how they're going to be able to handle that situation.
It's a big asking price from Nylander, and Toronto fans hoping that something gets done there. News and notes around the league. We have a captain in Florida, and we have some minor injured players that are back. Why don't you up-to-date us with that?
Yeah, so the Florida Panthers named Alexander Barkov as their new captain. I think that's a hands down perfect choice. He's their best player by far on and off the ice. I think that's exactly what Dale Talon actually said in his press conference. So perfect choice. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the NHL right now. I'm a huge fan, and he's also the best. I think he's the shootout king by far in the NHL. That guy has dangles for days. Brent Seabrook was back for Chicago. After saying he was going to be out a week, he beat that and he's finally back. And that's good news with all the injuries to the back end for Chicago. Also in Montreal, they announced that Max Domi will be starting at center this year, and Jonathan Drouin will start on the wing. So they were saying Domi played a little bit at center with Arizona last year, even though I still think Domi and Drouin are both wingers. But with Montreal's lack of depth, they got to try somebody there as that top line center. So we'll see how the transition is for Domi. I think Bergevin said Drouin really struggled in the first half of the season at center, but he improved as the season went along. But it looks like they're switching things up. And especially with Drouin's speed, I think he's better on the wing than at center. But yeah, that's something to monitor there in Montreal.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, Ottawa still crying about Erik Karlsson being traded, and now Pajot down for quite a while with his Achilles torn. What other news notes you got there before we wrap up today's show?
Yeah, so for the Toronto Maple Leafs, Babcock came out and said he's going to be using John Tavares and Mitch Marner towards the end of penalty kills, which is interesting because I think the league's starting to move into more of using your star players on the penalty kill, because usually when a bunch of penalties get taken, usually your star players are sitting on the bench for 2 or more minutes. And then they start to get cold, and then you're looking for that offense. But more teams like Connor McDavid being used on the penalty kill with Edmonton, that'll be an intriguing thing to see. With the Canucks, listening to the Packcast with Jason Botry and Jeff Patterson, they're talking about Brandon Sutter possibly be a good fit with Elias Pettersson on the wing. So that way Pettersson could still play center, but with the faceoffs, usually young guys, when they come into the league, that's where they struggle the most, is taking the faceoffs. So Sutter could help out with that, and then allow Pettersson to take over at center with all those responsibilities.
Well, and one of them's a lefty, one of them's a righty, so it would make sense with another skilled player on that line potentially. I'm sure we're going to get a good look at a lot of these different moves that coaches are wanting to make with the upcoming exhibition schedule. As we know, Canuck fans, we have exhibition games starting tomorrow night, in basically 3 games in 3 nights, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They're going to be making we'll probably see a bunch of cuts and decisions coming up with not only that squad, but with the rest of the teams around the league.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and to follow up on the Canucks, Travis Green has been really impressed with everybody with their conditioning and their plays in the 3 scrimmages that they've had over the weekend and today. I think Jason Botcher, he had a story come out, and Ben Hutton's basically redone his entire diet for this year. I guess he was a big snacker with chips and crackers and all that, so he's gone gluten-free, and apparently carrots are his big snack now. So him and Derek Pouliot switching his skating style. Both of those guys look like totally different players from where they were at last year when they came into camp, and with Pouliot coming in after the trade from Pittsburgh. So that's another thing I'd like to see over the preseason, how those 2 guys go. But yeah, it looks like everything's going well in Canucks land so far. And yeah, in that first preseason game, as you mentioned, tomorrow night against the Oilers.
Well, the way I look at it, they have about 11 players fighting for about 2 spots up front, which means they'll potentially lose 1 or 2 players through the waiver draft later on once they make some cuts and get their roster up to date. But I am looking forward to Utica. They're going to have an amazing team this year, and will definitely push for the Calder Cup in the AHL as these players continue to grow and get better. We'd probably see 4 or 5 of these young guys for the Canucks towards the end of the season or during stretches where they run into lots of injuries. Now, I know not everybody here is a Canucks fan, but leave us some comments about some of the battles happening in the camps of your favorite team. whether it's the New Jersey Devils, Chicago Blackhawks, Toronto Maple Leafs. Let us know who you're watching and who we should keep an eye out for on our end. We'd love to comment on it as well. Leave us a like, follow us on Facebook, and subscribe and like us on YouTube. Final words, Matt, before we end today's show.
Yeah, just looking forward to tomorrow night. Can't wait to see that opening night roster for the Canucks. I know that 2 out of the 3 games will be pretty competitive. The one against Calgary, that's just going to be all the young guys because they're all over in China still. So the Oilers and the Kings on Thursday, those will be the 2 games I'll be looking at the most to see how we match up against those 2 teams.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, everyone, for watching or listening wherever you may be with B&B Hockey Talk. And as always, we love your support. Remember to like and share us on Facebook or YouTube. We'll be back here again tomorrow with all the news and notes around the NHL as we get ready for the start of the next season. Everyone's excited. So have a great night, everyone, and we'll be back here tomorrow.